Now, this one's going to be a fun conversation. And I get to ask of why something gets built the way that it is and what you get to see going forward. So we now go, and I guess I should say, I'll ask where it is. I would think it might be Alabama. I don't know where Ben is, but we'll go ahead and bring Ben in and find out what's going on. So where, sir, are you? Are you in the home offices there at Trivela, or where are you?
Hey, John. Yep, in Birmingham, Alabama, at our home office here.
Okay, so this is Ben Boycott, and he is Grand Exalted Poobah. That is his official. That's on the business card, right? It is officially Grand Exalted Poobah, right?
Something like that, yeah.
And he is founding director and CEO of the Trivela Group, and we have been following some of the franchises in Trivela that are a part of the portfolio, and it's been fun for us to find out what's going on at Drogheda, to find out what's going on at Walsall, and to see the portfolio at Trivela when it comes to multi-club ownership work its way into the African continent and also into Europe as well. How does someone and a group of someones that are based in Birmingham get interested in soccer in the first place?
Yeah, great question. Definitely a bit of a circuitous route that got us involved in this in the first place. And if I'm absolutely honest, not something that if I could rewind 10 years ago that we set out to do necessarily. So my background is in finance and investments prior to anything to do with sports. The initial connection to soccer, football, came through some nonprofit work that I was involved with as a volunteer, and then actually as a full-time team member of an awesome nonprofit that's based here in Birmingham, Alabama, called Vapor Ministries, that uses soccer training centers in the developing world as a platform for humanitarian work. So got involved in that, and really soccer was just a means to an end for stuff to try to do good stuff in the world, right? To help communities in East Africa and West Africa and impoverished Caribbean nations. Man, like, as you can imagine, we're running, really high quality soccer training facilities with, nutrition and equipment and education and coaching and all the rest of it. And naturally, some of the athletes, after they've been in that environment for 10 years, have a high degree of potential, which is great. Initially I was just saying, okay, awesome. I hope you guys can go, make a career out of football and make a lot of money one day. That'd be awesome, right? But it was a bit naive at the time, didn't understand, how frankly awful and exploitative certain corners of our industry can be, particularly in those more opaque environments like East Africa, West Africa. So we had just some horror stories and people who are familiar with the industry have heard stories like these, but horror stories of kids being taken advantage of from those impoverished environments. And so, the earliest vestiges of what would become Trivela were really just professional clubs at a very, very low level in these developing world environments, which is genuinely just a platform for protecting players from kind of the bad actors in the industry, that we could develop players and try to create a safe pathway for them. And that was just the very first step that ultimately turned into, myself and my founding partner, Ken, starting to believe that there was some unique opportunities upstream as those players progressed, and then just starting to look at European football specifically, and some really good ways of investing in it and some really bad ways of investing in it, and feeling like there was an opportunity, if we were willing to take a very long-term view, that there was some good investments out there, and started in 2021 and made our first investment in 2022, and it's sped up a bit since then.
How patient do you have to be in the current soccer environment when it comes to finding the right club, finding the right club for the right reason, and knowing that it's going to be a long-term investment? It's not something that you're going to, as much as we all like the instant gratification of whether it's winning or getting the player that you can develop and then sell on and then move forward with that profit and continue to build from within and such. How difficult is it to be patient when it comes to building an MCO, finding the right places, finding the right players, all of these different pieces to make sure that you're going at it the right way and staying true to who you are?
Yeah, I think you have to be. I think that's the hardest part about it, honestly. I think you have to be exceptionally patient in an environment that doesn't lend itself to that, right? Because the games never stop coming. I mean, literally anymore, we have a team in Ireland that runs a February through November season, and then obviously in England and England and Denmark that run, kind of that August through May sort of time frame. And so apart from international breaks, there's never a weekend where we're not playing, and you lose 3 games in a row and it starts to feel like the apocalypse in whatever environment you're in. So it is definitely an instant gratification industry, but I think the way to be successful in the industry is to think long term and be very patient. I mean, there's a few different things, right? Like just you said it well, to find the right clubs in the first instance that we feel are good investments and are going to be good opportunities for us. Every deal we've worked on so far, we've been talking to those counterparties for a year before anything was public, right? And so in every case so far, it's been a very long process to determine whether the club was the right partner for us. Most of them aren't. All the ones we've done so far, I'm really happy with. But we filter, as you can imagine, we filter through 100 for every one that we have moved forward with. And then once you're in it, I think you have to be super patient to not try to make a quick buck, because I think you can get in loads of trouble investing in football if you're trying to be a quick buck artist. I think when it comes to just trying to buy promotion or buy Europe or flip a roster quickly, it can lead to some really bad outcomes. And so I think being level-headed and patient is really the only way to make it work, unless it's just purely an ego play, which is not for us.
Well, and I know that when you spent your time in Tuscaloosa, you got your degree in risk management. So, it's like, okay, you got the book element of it, you got the lecture part of it, and then you get to experience it in real time of, okay, how do we continue to grow this, have the right messaging, and make sure that folks know who we are, that we're serious about it. When you're knocking on a door, is it, I guess early on when you were knocking on doors, sitting there saying, yeah, we're interested, did people sit there and go, what is this American, what does this American know? What do I want to do business with an American for? Or was it, fairly open door? It's like, okay, this is somebody new. He gets it. I'll listen. What was the initial response when you wanted to start opening these doors?
Yeah, I'd say early on it was there was certainly skepticism. I think we had a good amount of credibility just from what my background was and what my founding partner's background was. So founded the organization with Ken Polk. He and I in the early days were 50-50 partners, and he's the CEO of a large family office firm here in Birmingham. And so there was enough credibility in who we were that we could have conversations. But absolutely, I mean, first conversations were with Walsall. That was the first deal we did, and that was not too far on the back end of the whole Super League thing, a lot of which was driven by American owners. So, there's maybe generally not the highest view of American ownership in various European countries. And I'd say at that moment it was heightened in England specifically. Yeah. And so there's certainly skepticism early on. And I guess I'll just credit Steph Gamble, who was CEO of Walsall at the time, and Lee Pomlet, who was the chairman of Walsall at the time and still is the co-chairman, of being open-minded enough to have those conversations about 135 at the time year-old football club, and them being responsible to steward that and what it means for that community, and being willing to have the conversation with completely untested Americans at the time. So I think there was a good amount of open-mindedness from them. And then obviously after we gotten involved with Walsall, that gave us a certain amount of credibility to have subsequent conversations after that. But yeah, a big credit to Lee and Stefan for being open-minded in the early days before we'd ever done this before.
Ben Boycott, founding director and CEO, Trivela Group out in Birmingham, building the multi-club ownership model from a bunch of different places, continuing to add pieces going forward. How much of your time in Chattanooga FC being on the board helped you in understanding the lay of the land, how to talk, who to talk to, the approach, how things are different, but how they're the same? How did the time at CFC, and how has it helped you try to figure out the foundation of what you want to do and build from there?
Yeah, I've actually come into the board at CFC a bit more recently. So I'd actually say it's the other way around, where I've learned a bit about kind of the different European models from being involved with Walsall, Drata, and Silkeborg. And then hopefully being able to add some measure of value from that experience to the CFC board, which is an awesome organization, and I'm really honored to be a part of it in that function.
Okay, so then I'll bite. How did what you were doing there help out CFC, understanding, because we know that CFC is in a great soccer market. We know that Fort Finley It's can generate a lot of heat when it comes to fans, and it's a difficult place to play, and all these kinds of things. So, how did everything that you're doing at Trivela help out with CFC?
Yeah, I mean, I hope that some of the stuff I've been able to comment on in terms of the technical setup, the integration between the different levels of the organization, from the men's, the first side, the women's side, the academy programs. I think there's been some healthy conversations in terms of how our European clubs are set up from a technical standpoint that hopefully have been instructive there. And then, also, it's been really interesting to compare notes. I mean, the primary owner of CFC is a close friend of mine, and he's one of our partners at Trivela Group as well. So there's a lot of integration between, just shared learnings between their GM and myself in terms of how they're thinking about their stadium situation, how they're thinking about, sponsorships and all that. And so I'd say it's hopefully mutually beneficial. We're comparing notes on, front of shirt values and ticket pricing and concession situations and all that kind of stuff. So I'd say it's hopefully, they would say the same, but hopefully mutually beneficial for everybody.
When Trivela came online, how many years ago are we talking?
We founded in 2021 in April, I guess. And then nobody had any clue what Trivela was, I suppose, until June of 2022, when we announced that we acquired 51% of Walsall FC. So whatever that is, three-ish years ago, 3.5 years ago. Yeah.
So how far back does your soccer fandom appreciation go?
Oh, yeah, I'll be honest with you. I grew up, I don't know if I should say all this. I grew up mostly in the northern parts. I was born in Canada.
Okay.
I grew up in Alaska, went to Minnesota for a college ice hockey career that didn't really work out, but would have been great if it did. So man, I was an ice hockey guy through and through, right up until I got involved with that nonprofit. And so that was kind of my first exposure to soccer. A lot of the folks there were Premier League fans, so I started paying attention to the Premier League as a result of that. So yeah, frankly, not that far. Again, this is maybe one of the bits I shouldn't say, but it's not like I grew up a diehard football fan. We're a Canada ice hockey family through and through. That's just kind of come about later in life.
Hey, I mean, look, I'm one of those guys that would watch Hockey Night in Canada when it was available to me on the NHL Network.
Don Cherry, right? And all those crazy coats and everything.
Yeah. I mean, look, Ron McLean, Don, look, you got Grapes, you got Ron McLean, you got folks there. I'm a Hockey Night in Canada guy. Trust me, I'm a hockey guy too. And what I started doing when I dove back in fully about a decade ago, it was when Manchester City and Manchester United were going back and forth on decision day that year in the Premier League. When you had to do math and it's like, okay, somebody's leading, somebody's not. Manchester City had it. Now they're behind a QPR and all this kind of madness. And the boss was wondering what I was getting wrapped into on Saturday mornings before college football would kick in.
Yeah.
And so what I started doing was explaining the matches that I was watching in the parlance of SEC football.
Okay.
And so what I would say was, okay, so the game I'm watching, for whatever reason, it would be like, okay, so Alabama is playing Vanderbilt, and this is a decade ago. So Alabama's playing Vanderbilt. They're in Tuscaloosa, and Vandy is winning. And so she would have an instant understanding of, oh, okay, so I know the game, I know the context of the game that you're watching. And so using that got her into soccer. And so now she's, following me and what we're doing here at SDH and going to games, and she goes to watch Atlanta United and all this kind of stuff. And so that was why I was wondering, as far back as you have dived into soccer with Trivela, what has it been like for you to see the game grow to where it is on all levels here in the continental United States, and getting to take that knowledge with you to help grow Trivela overseas?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's interesting. It's funny you mentioned the SEC though, too, just as a quick side note, because I think what I said before is actually helpful, because I don't have a boyhood club, if you will, right? Like I am, like my clubs that I support are Walsall, Drada, and Silkeborg, and I don't have a side Premier League team or something like this. Now I was at the University of Alabama, as you mentioned before, for graduate school in 2011 and 2012. And if I remember, I won the national championship both years. So it was a really easy on-ramp to being a Alabama fan, right?
Yeah, the boss, she heard you discussing things, and when you mentioned that particular school, it just kind of went fuzzy. But yes, continue.
Well, the crazy thing is, like, up until we started doing this, I would like get nervous on Saturdays. Like I would I would have to sit down, completely pay attention to the Alabama game and watch every second of it, listen to every bit of commentary, even if we're up, at the time, like 50-0, I'm going to watch every play to see how the third strings are going.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is I still watch it, but I think you only have like maybe so much emotional energy for sports. And I just I'm still an Alabama fan, but it's just like the process of being involved with.
Well, yeah, you got things that you're doing, man. I mean, you got other stuff that you're focused on.
It's taken Alabama football for me, which is interesting because it's not that I don't care, but it's just totally different than it used to be because all my emotional energy about sports goes into these.
Well, and to my next question, considering, and I might be bringing up something kind of sore, but let me know if I am. For those that may not know Walsall's story, last year heading into this year, you get all the way to the end. You get all the way to the promotion playoff, and it's a heartbreaker.
That's right.
You're that close to getting into League One in the EFL pyramid. Can you break down what that kind of energy and emotion is on that day at Wembley to get so close and then not be able to finish?
Yeah, I need to go back and watch my
I'm sorry if I'm bringing flashbacks back, but it's just it's something that Americans through their fandom may only see in a couple of different things, but since you're up close to it as a vested interest, to be right there and your arms are around everybody and you're part of this growth and you're right there, and then that moment happens and then you learn from it. And there was an interview that Matt did with Sky discussing what happened last year and the start that Walsall is on this year, where you're top of the table on goal difference. I mean, there are two ways to take what happened last year, and you've taken the positive road through it, and you're storming through League Two right now at the top of the table.
Yeah, they've had a great start, and you're right. Wembley was that was a really difficult, painful day. I mean, I'm not going to joke around about it. It was really rough, and it was rough for the fans, and it was rough for all of us. And in fact, the story goes back a bit further, and I'm sure you know this, but Wembley was honestly just like the last bit of it, because Walsall was actually 15 points clear at the top of the table in January, February, I think, and then just spring did not go well. We lost a key player in January, and did what we could to try to replace the goal production. And for one reason or another, I think it was just kind of a couple things snowballed into a crisis of confidence, and without re-unpacking the whole thing, kind of slipped down and down and down out of the automatic places. And probably the toughest day in all that, I don't know if you know this, John, but on the last day of the regular season, if we won at Crewe and Bradford failed to win at home, then we get promoted automatically. And I was there with about 15 people at Crewe. And we were up 1-0 at the end of the game, and Bradford was 0-0. By all accounts, getting promoted. Our whole supporter section was getting pretty riled up. They're announcing over the loudspeakers, please stay off the pitch at full time, like it was one of them. Final whistle blows in our game, win the game, and at the exact same minute, final whistle blows for us. Bradford scores on the last kick of the game, and the goal was crazy, deflected, nonsense goal from nothing. And literally in the 97th minute of their game, they win 1-0 to put us in fourth, basically.
Yeah. And
so then we get through the semifinals in fine form, honestly. Did really well against Chesterfield, and then got to Wembley. And there wasn't a whole lot in that game against Wimbledon, and lost in front of however many thousand at Wembley. So I'm rambling because it is painful, but in answer to your question, I honestly don't think that there's a corollary in American sports. I'm probably totally biased, but could I explain those emotions that entire town and team and staff felt? It was absolutely heart-wrenching. Yeah, it's really tough. It's really tough.
In every, and this is what I ask this of new owners and new front office personnel and things like that. I always ask this question: when it comes to the particular club that I'm attached to in any given interview, I always ask, there's got to be in that office there at Trivela in Birmingham a to-do list for the growth of the company, the growth of each individual franchise, what you've got to do with players and the next stages and all this kind of stuff. Where is that to-do list in the office? Is it on a Google Doc? Is it on a spreadsheet? Is it in a folder? Is it in something that, it's on legal pads and wire-bound notebooks spread across the office in certain files? Is it on one of those big 6-foot by 4-foot dry erase boards that's got a bunch of lines around it and everything? That's like, okay, this goes to here and this goes to here and this with this. Where is that to-do list for these franchises, and what do you think the next thing that you can cross off the list on the to-do list for Trivela is for the growth of these franchises and maybe adding more down the line?
Yeah. So where it's a shared Google Doc amongst our exec team that our COO runs. And I mean, there's a million and one things on there, but I guess the crux of all of them is really just to, we grew quite fast over the course of 2024. We hadn't really been running our club in Togo at a high level, and we really ramped it up. Drahida came in 2024 and early. Silkeborg came in 2024 late. And so we, that year was a very rapid expansion year for us in the midst of all kinds of other stuff going on in terms of Drahida winning the cup and Walsall being in the situation it was in and all the rest of it. So, really for 2025, the whole name of the game has been and continues to be just optimizing that and getting our arms wrapped around it as best we can, right? Just trying to make sure the technical setups are as clean and tight and comprehensive they can be for really the dual goals of first team success and academy production, and then just overall just commercial success of the clubs. And so there's a load of focus on the commercial side, sponsorships and corporate partnerships and that kind of stuff. And then also, huge focus on match day experience and optimizing it as best we can. So that really is the name of the game for us right now. It's kind of a boring answer, but that really is the name of the game for us right now, since we grew so fast, trying to get our arms wrapped around it as best we possibly can and optimize it as best we can.
Yeah, well, because you obviously you want to grow, and you understand that sometimes you are grabbing that comet by the tail and you're trying to hang on, and you're trying to sit there and go, okay, how do we hang on as best we can and push everything forward equally, instead of sitting there going, okay, well, this works and then this works and then this works, and the whole idea might get kind of lost in the sauce if something advances faster than something else when it comes to what you want to do on the group, especially with the off the field component when it comes to folks understanding the things that you noticed about the game that you want to fix, the pathways and needs and welfare and all those kinds of things. It's not something that I think a lot of ownership groups focus on. They want to focus on all of the on the field stuff and presentation, but you don't see a lot of folks focusing on the off the field stuff with player welfare and making sure that they're taken care of as well. I mean, that's got to be a delicate balance, and adding a lot to the depth of field that you're trying to do there, Trivela.
It is a delicate balance, but I think it becomes less of a balance the longer term you think, if that makes sense. So if I'm basically thinking about what happens this season, then it's a real balance of saying, okay, how do I, do everything I can to maximize the points that we're getting, which is absolutely essential. Like, I'm not like, we want our teams to be successful. We want to win. I love winning. I hate losing. Nothing bothers me more than losing, right? But the flip side of it is, if you think of it over the course of, a 10 to 20 to 30 year time horizon, then building a real capability around the commercial side and the ticketing side and the match day experience side and the player welfare side, all of that actually comes together into overall success and building for the football club. And so, yeah, it is a delicate balance, but I think the more that we as a team can discipline ourselves to think long-term, it all starts to work together a bit more. And so, yeah, I'd say the big to-do list is optimizing, but the biggest thing inside that, there's lots of little things in that. I said that one, there's also some major things inside that. One is our stadium situation in Ireland that we need to figure out. We're working towards a new stadium, and there's obviously loads to pull together with the funding and the land and what that transition looks like. And so that's a huge project that we're putting a lot of brain damage towards at the moment, because Drogheda is a great town. It's the fastest growing town in Ireland. It's a large town. It's growing very rapidly, really because of how rapidly Dublin is growing.
Yep.
And that's a situation where we're really just massively under capacity at our stadium. Like we need more seats. We need more concessions and ability to generate additional match day revenue. And it's just, it kind of sucks because the stadium has just loads of character and personality. It's a really cool old ground to be in, but where the club has grown to the level where it's not fit for purpose anymore. So inside this kind of overall optimization thing I'm talking about, the stadium in Drogheda is something we're putting some real thought towards.
So when's your next roadie?
Tuesday. I go to Denmark, fly overnight Tuesday, and in Denmark for next week, and then we'll head to Walsall for a home game against Colchester on the Saturday. So, and then home on Sunday. So.
Well, I cannot thank you enough for taking time out of your hyper busy schedule to break everything down so folks can get acquainted with what we know in pieces with our time that we've spent with Walsall and the time that we've spent with Drogheda. And obviously, it's fun for us to be able to kind of see what's going on and see the development there as well, and open up those windows for our audience, obviously, here in the United States. I can't thank you enough for taking time to kind of put the top end conversation to all of the pieces that we've been talking about. Now, I can't thank you enough for this, Ben. It's been a real education. And for me personally, to find out the why and to find out the how that's going on there at Trivela, I can't thank you enough for doing this.
Well, appreciate it, Jones. Enjoyed chatting with you today, and let's do it again.